One player who has been relatively quiet in all of this, despite the fact that for the last 40 years they have been the best of strategic partners and friends, is China. China has now commented on the US-Israeli strikes on Iran, saying that it's violating international law and it now risks expanding the conflict across the region. Beijing has affirmed its support for Iran's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Beijing and Washington's ties have been further strained at a time when in the next few weeks, President Trump will be traveling to Beijing and meeting with Xi Jinping. And China and the United States are the two large countries who have still not signed a trade deal. So how much will China push in its criticism against this joint Israeli-American strike on one of its long-standing friends and partners in the Middle East? Or will it risk upending the entire relationship between the two biggest superpowers, the two biggest economies, just because one of its friends has been attacked in West Asia? The current thaw between China and the United States was already fragile. Now it faces a fresh new strain. The killing of Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, in an American-backed strike that Beijing has denounced as a blatant attempt at regime change. China has moved quickly to condemn the American and Israeli strikes on Iran, with its top diplomat Wang Yi accusing both governments of assassinating another country's leader. He's also pledged to support Tehran's sovereignty and security. The killing of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei came less than 2 months after American forces captured President Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela, who was another close partner of China. Together, these two moves, one in Venezuela, the other in Iran, amount to a forceful display of American power against regimes that China has cultivated as part of its broader strategy. Yet, for Beijing, the question is how far to defend Iran, its closest diplomatic partner in the Middle East, without hurting its own economic interests or worsening tensions with the United States.
美国和以色列未经安理会授权对伊朗发动军事打击，违反国际法。中方对战事外溢波及周边国家深表关切。中方认为，海湾各国的主权安全和领土完整也应当得到充分的尊重。我们敦促各方停止军事行动，防止战火进一步蔓延。
Beijing is likely troubled by the potential ripple effects of the American and Israeli strikes. China is the world's largest importer of energy, and Iran has already threatened to set on fire any ship that's traveling through the Strait of Hormuz. Over the past week, Iran has shown it can block, almost at will, this crucial waterway off the southern coast of Iran, through which a fifth of the world's oil travels. That could drive up prices, and that could badly hurt China's economy. There is also a quieter domestic sensitivity to foreign-backed regime change. Xi Jinping, who is China's leader and who's been in power since 2012 and is widely expected to get a fourth term starting next year, presides over a political system that brooks no dissent. Under the Chinese state media's censors, news about Khamenei's death was welcomed. Internet users, in fact, congratulated Iranian residents, and they wondered aloud who the next leader might be. Many of these social media posts were then scrubbed off the Chinese internet. But domestic concerns aside, Beijing is likely most focused on its relationship with the United States. President Donald Trump and Xi Jinping are just weeks away from a summit in Beijing where they're expected to extend a trade truce between the world's two largest economies. The White House has said that the meeting between Xi and Trump would take place between the 31st of March to the 2nd of April. But China is yet to confirm the details of this meeting or when and where it will take place. China could still consider cancelling or postponing the meeting with President Trump to show its displeasure with Washington and its use of military power against Iran. But whether they will cross that Rubicon remains to be seen. Despite its sharp rhetoric over Iran, Beijing has strong incentives to keep its relationship with the United States on an even keel. China wants Washington to agree to extend the trade truce, reduce its support for Taiwan, and ease its restrictions on technology exports. Beijing cares much more about managing the United States than whatever is happening in the Middle East. The trip to China, which would be the first by an American president since Trump went there to Beijing in 2017, is seen as vital to maintaining the truce that Xi and Trump had reached last October in Busan in South Korea. Before that, China and the United States had engaged in a blistering trade war that sunk their relations to the lowest point in more than 50 years. For China, postponing or cancelling the summit meeting with Trump would carry its own costs. Trump has signaled a willingness to avoid any kind of confrontation with Beijing. His administration recently delayed the announcement of an $11 billion arms package to Taiwan, which is the self-governed island which Beijing claims its own. It's also eased restrictions on the sale of advanced American chips to China. Trump, in fact, refrained from mentioning China in his State of the Union address, which is an unusual omission. The legal landscape has also shifted in favor of Beijing. The recent US Supreme Court ruling, which struck down many of President Trump's tariffs, but his new 10% tariff on global imports is actually beneficial to China. China earlier had 34% tariffs, which has now been reduced to 10% after the US Supreme Court's decision. Beyond the summit, the conflict could reshape the strategic landscape in ways that benefit Beijing. Already, the United States has amassed the largest military force in the Middle East since 2003 at the invasion of Iraq. It has deployed aircraft carrier strike groups, also dozens of fighter jets to the region. And if that effort proves sustained, it could draw American attention and resources away from Asia. Beijing may not be bothered if the United States becomes bogged down in another unpopular war in the Middle East that distracts it from its main adversary, which is China. Beijing also must thread a diplomatic needle with Tehran. China has forged deep economic ties with many countries in the Gulf that Iran has launched attacks against in these recent days, like the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia. Now, unlike the United States, which has formal defense commitments with dozens of its allies, China has only one ally, which is North Korea. Its partnerships with Iran, with Venezuela, these are all strategic, they're not military alliances. Still, the strikes on Iran have laid bare the gulf between the two superpowers and their military capabilities. Despite its rapid investment in recent decades, China does not possess an army like the United States. The US Army can project power in any part of the world at any time. They've shown that in Venezuela, they've shown that in Iran. And that rankles Beijing. Because what that means is no country, not even China, can stop the United States from taking whatever action it pleases in any corner of the world. The demonstration of raw, hard power is something that will worry Beijing. It certainly complicates Xi Jinping's own plans to reunify Taiwan by 2027.